Hello. Today we're going to go on a trip to a shul. Now, that sounds a little weird, but we're not just going to go to a shul like everybody goes to a shul. We're going to go inside and see the most special parts of the shul. We're going to learn about a shul. And for some of us, it's been a really long time since we've been inside a shul. And that's what's going to be so special about this. But we're going to go on a shul when no one else is there so we can make noise and we can explain what everything is without having to worry about disturbing everybody who might be in the middle of praying, in the middle of davening. So, are you ready to come with me inside a shul? Let's go.
Okay, the first thing that we're going to learn about inside a shul, a Beit Knesset, is the Bima. Now, this Bima has plastic around it. Most do not because of COVID, and they want to make sure that people's breathing doesn't go too far. But imagine if the plastic wasn't here. You can see the Bima has like a fence all around it. You can see it goes all the way around it, and two openings. One on this side. You can pull it over here. You see right here there's an opening, and one on this side. Okay? When you come up to the Bima, on the Bima, this is the Bima here. When you come up to the Bima, you come to read the Torah. That's why you come here, to read the Torah. They put the Torah right here. Right here instead, right now, there's a Tanakh, which is the entire Torah in a book. But there's a Sefer Torah. Okay, this is, you can see, this is an entire Torah in a book, but they bring a Sefer Torah out here, and the Baal Koreh, the one that reads, stands here and he reads the Torah. When you come up in the Bima, you come up on one side, and then you go out on the other side. And that is a way of honoring the Torah by not going in the same way and by not going out the same way that you came in. And we come in. And when you see them reading the Torah on the Bima, there are three people, sometimes more than three people, sometimes four people. There's the Gabbai, and then there's another Gabbai. Those are the people that call people up to the Torah, and they say that we're going to honor this person. He gets to come up and make the brachot on the Torah. And then there's the person reading the Torah. They stand right here. And there's the person that makes the brachot on the Torah. And this is supposed to be just like Har Sinai. And the Gabbai and the person that reads the Torah and the other Gabbai, they represent Moshe, Bnei Yisrael, and Hashem. Hashem gave us the Torah, Moshe taught the Torah, and Bnei Yisrael learned and then followed the Torah. That's the Bima. Get ready, we're going to go to the next part of the shul. Okay, for the next part that we're going to learn about the shul, you can see it right over there. This is where the chazan stands. Okay, and the chazan has his own place to stand. He stands here. You can see he has a siddur here. Here they put two siddurim. Okay, and the chazan stands here. The entire shul is behind him. Okay, and the chazan stands here. And if you look, it seems like because the Aron Kodesh, which we're going to see soon, is in front of us, it looks like the chazan is low. And that's true. The chazan has to be low down, lower than everybody else, because in Tehillim, it says, Shir Hamalot Mimamakim Karticha Hashem, that we call out to Hashem from low down. And that shows us that we understand that Hashem is really powerful and we are really low down. So the chazan stands in a lower place. Some shuls even have, ours doesn't, but on the ground, it even has a place where they dug a hole. Some places, in some shuls in Europe have where they dug a hole, and the chazan is really low down, much lower than everybody else. But the chazan stands here, and he calls out the different parts of davening, the end of each paragraph of davening, so that people can follow along, and he leads the tefillot. That's the chazan, and this is where he stands. And now I want to show you one other special place. This is where the Rav sits. The rabbi of a shul has a special seat just for him. Everybody else might have a seat they like to sit in, but nobody is allowed to sit in the rabbi's chair. And the reason why the rabbi has his own special place in every single shul is because that's how we give kavod to the rabbi. Why do we give honor, kavod, to the rabbi? Because he knows the Torah and he can teach us the Torah. You ready for our next stop in the shul?
Watch this.
Okay, the next place we're going to go is also called the Bima, And you can see there's steps that lead up to it. And we go up the steps to the Aron Kodesh. Each shul has its own different Aron Kodesh, and they're always very special. They're always decorated in a beautiful way. And you can see the Aron Kodesh behind me is decorated in a very, very pretty way. And if you're standing at the Aron, the whole shul is right behind you. You can see that. There's a lot of light out there, but this is the whole shul is right behind us because the Aron is always in the front and always high. And inside the Aron, I'm sure this Aron is locked. Let's see if it is. Maybe not. Oh, it's not. Let's see. Okay, so you open up the Aron. This is called the parochet. The parochet is like a cloth, okay, that's in the top. And you can open up the parochet like this, and then there are doors. You open up the doors, and this door is probably locked. Okay, here you have locked doors, but behind here is the Sefer Torah. And every shul has something just like this. Somebody comes up when it's time to read the Torah, and they open up the Aron Kodesh, and then when they're done reading the Torah, they close it, they make sure it's closed, and then they'll close the parochet to make sure. And this is a way of showing honor, kavod to the Torah, because things that we really care about and we really want to show honor to, we hide them, like jewelry or money or things that or fancy paintings that we really, really care about. We don't leave it out where everybody can see it. We keep it hidden, and that's what we keep in the Torah. We guard it by keeping it in the Aron Kodesh inside here. And every single shul has an Aron Kodesh. Okay, one last thing. This is where if the rabbi is going to speak and he's going to teach to the whole shul, right? So this is where he stands and he teaches the entire shul. Okay, before we leave the shul, I want to just teach you a couple of special laws, halachot, special Jewish laws that we have in a shul that you don't really have anywhere else. Okay, some of those laws are designed, they're meant to make sure that we treat the shul like a very special place. So for instance, you're not supposed to talk to anyone in the shul unless it's about davening or about the Torah, but you're not supposed to ask somebody, hey, do you know what the score of the baseball game was last night? Or, oh, let's go to your house and play afterwards. When you're inside the shul, the only thing you should be doing is davening or learning Torah, something that has to do with mitzvot. But just having conversations you shouldn't have. You're not supposed to eat in a shul. You can't eat in a shul, because by eating in a shul, what that makes it look like, as if you're like, oh, it's like a dining room, but a shul is not a dining room. A shul is a very, very special place. That's another law. No eating or drinking in a shul. But you know who's allowed to eat and drink in a shul? If you're a big Talmid Chacham, if you really know the Torah really well, and you always study the Torah, you never waste a minute. If you have a minute free time, you're not on your cell phone, you're not playing a game, you're not just talking, but you're always learning Torah, then we don't want a person to have to leave the shul and stop their learning to get something to eat. We'd rather them continue eating in the shul so they're allowed to. Another law of a shul that a lot of people don't know is that when you leave a shul, you're supposed to walk backwards out of kavod for the shul. You walk backwards and walk out backwards as opposed to turning your back, right? If somebody turns their back, that's not a way of showing honor to whoever you're doing. So you walk backwards outside of the shul. Those are just a couple of the laws of a Beit Knesset, of a shul, on our trip today to the Beit Knesset. I hope you enjoyed. Shalom.